4 years after What If launched Marvel Animation, Disney Plus has now released Marvel Zombies, the second to last project of this transitional year. An animated series that fully commits to being for adults, going further with gore and blood than Episode V of What If, from which it originates. Once again, Marvel shows its willingness to move away from family-friendly content to reach a broader, more mature audience. But here, we're not just going to do a simple review or a quick analysis of the series, we're going to dig a little deeper. Marvel Zombies has been in development for years, just waiting to be released. Just like Eyes of Wakanda, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, Ironheart, or soon, Wonder Man. All these series are from the previous Marvel management, which aimed to flood the market with content. They were all released in 2025 to clear the fridge and start 2026 fresh. Although I personally felt the zombie genre was well respected and the action scenes were better than most recent Marvel projects. What struck me the most is what the series says between the lines. When you take a step back, it reveals much more than just a simple horror story. Even though Marvel Zombies isn't officially Marvel Cinematic Universe canon, its powers, artifacts, and characters are all modeled after the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's why today we're going to analyze in detail what the series is really telling us. It's not just about what happened behind the scenes at Marvel Studios, but more importantly, what it reveals about the Marvel Cinematic Universe is future, especially Avengers, Doomsday, and Secret Wars. And hold on tight, because I bet you haven't seen half of it. Obviously, if you haven't watched the series yet, we're entering the spoiler zone, the danger zone. You're with Kevin Bookhart, your favorite apocalypse theorist. Credits and subtitles by Jeremy Diaz. Marvel's skeletons in the closet. This year, 2025, is special. 2 years ago, Disney reached a turning point when Bob Iger returned to save the company after years of failures. An emergency meeting was even held during the writers' strike. They had to save Marvel, and for that, Iger gave full power back to Kevin Feige. Together, they chose quality over quantity. Only in 2025 are we seeing the results. Well, slowly, since the year started with several troubled projects like Daredevil and Captain America: Brave New World. 2 projects that should have been different were halted mid-production to try to save them. The result wasn't an instant success, but the next 2 films, Thunderbolt and Fantastic Four, were made with this new direction in mind. However, on Disney Plus, former management under Bob Chapek launched many projects, series, and animations that Iger and Feige later halted. Superhero fatigue isn't discussed as much now, but both leaders are aware. Marvel's brand has suffered significantly since Endgame. Too many movies and series to follow, but not enough quality. With contracts signed and millions spent, they had to use them somehow. The result? A year of scraping the bottom of the barrel, but most of it released quietly. The year started with the small Spider-Man series, which after X-Men brought a bit of freshness. For me, it was a real surprise. Daredevil, on the other hand, was announced with great fanfare, but overall disappointed the audience, so the rest had to keep a low profile. Ironheart was rescheduled for June, released over 2 weeks, and got mixed reviews. While introducing Mephisto, a super dark character, promising for the future of the studio Eyes of Wakanda. It was dropped at the last second, right in the middle of summer, just a few days before the start of filming for the next Spider-Man, which took over the entire internet. As a result, absolutely no one talked about it despite respectable production quality, and Marvel Zombies followed exactly the same pattern. Initially set for Halloween, the program was rescheduled to late September between the Los Angeles Comic-Con and New York's event. No grand release, no real Halloween promotion for a program that, as I told you, I really liked. But then, why not own up to it? Quite simply because film is one of Marvel's worst years in terms of results. Even movies praised by critics and fans haven't managed to bring the general public back to theaters. So, they need to simplify the offering. Less Marvel content, but more focused like pre-Endgame, with a consistent theme. Unfortunately, Marvel Zombies is just a fun aside unrelated to the current Marvel Cinematic Universe. Same problem for Wonder Man, scheduled for December, a series that's been rotting on the shelf and has already been announced as Marvel Cinematic Universe canon. But without mentioning the other events? And I bet they'll finally release it in November quietly, just like that. Anyway, Marvel Zombies, is it a good or bad idea? What's the origin of Marvel Zombies? So, personally, I'm not a big fan of the What If series, at least not what they've done with it in animation. In my opinion, the show suffers from the same problem as the multiverse saga. The series doesn't properly take advantage of the parallel world concept, worlds where, normally, a single different choice can change everything. Take Peacemaker, for example. Warning, spoilers ahead if you're not caught up. James Gunn took a totally crazy gamble by adapting the multiverse and directly introducing Earth X, a Nazi universe. It's bold and has a much greater impact than Multiverse of Madness and No Way Home combined, since almost nothing changes, except one detail that changes everything. Of the 3 seasons of What If, the first was the most successful. One of the first season's most memorable episodes was the zombie one, so Marvel logically made a sequel. It was originally planned as a special movie, Halloween, which was eventually turned into a series so they could include the intro sequence of the episode with Spider-Man and T'Challa. But before we go any further, let's remember that Marvel Zombies is, above all, a comic book, and I think a little exploration on the comic side wouldn't hurt to get an overall view of the project. Just a heads up, it's really gory and wild. I'll give you a quick summary, but the real story is very different. Everything begins during World War. Hulk returns from exile to Earth with an army, seeking revenge on the Illuminati for banishing him and causing his new family's death. Except this time, unlike the events of the universe that keep repeating, Hulk doesn't run into Black Bolt at his lunar base, but instead faces a horde of zombies. While his army is slaughtered by the leader of the zombie Illuminati, Hulk gets bitten, transforms as well, and throws himself onto Earth, driven by an insatiable hunger. A world-breaker zombie Hulk unleashed right in the middle of Manhattan. I don't need to explain, it's a massacre like World War Hulk. The Avengers send Earth's strongest hero to stop him. Sentry. The battle is huge and Sentry takes control. But, just like in the series, the infected zombies are a bit dumber, but they keep their powers and abilities, they're just obsessed with their hunger. Hulk tries a trick by turning back into Banner. Sentry also reverts to Bob and tries to talk, like in the comic. Bruce then bites him, turning Sentry into a zombie too, a duo that ends their world. From there, things go completely off the rails. The Avengers are transformed, they invade everything and devour absolutely everything. They aim to spread the epidemic across the multiverse with a teleporter, but Spider-Man, feeling guilty, overcomes his hunger. He forms the new Avengers, a team of friendly zombies, to stop them. Yes, you heard correctly. A zombie Spider-Man leads a team against the zombie Avengers with an unstoppable weapon. Secretly, Spidey and Tony Stark created a cure using Sandman and nanomachines, a cool weapon. Most zombies die except Sentry. That's when the Guardian Uatu breaks his vow and intervenes. Realizing the virus can't be stopped, he sends the zombie Sentry to another reality's past, creating a time loop to trap the virus. Sacrificing 2 universes to save the multiverse. Here's a twist. The virus actually comes from there. The decision is what creates the loop, because Sentry infects the Avengers of this world, who will eventually infect Sentry. From the Earth we just talked about, which will be sent back into the past from here. In summary, after Sentry's carnage on this new Earth's past, survivors gather around Nick Fury. However, Reed Richards, traumatized by witnessing his children's horrific deaths, breaks down. He concludes the infection is evolution's next step and chooses to infect the other Fantastic Four members. The chaos is complete and continues. After various adventures with Charles Xavier and Magneto, the Silver Surfer arrives and is eaten. The zombies gain cosmic powers, attack and devour Galactus, becoming even more powerful. The Giga Zombies devour every world in the universe until nothing remains. Hank Pym creates a portal to return to the original universe, infects the Illuminati, who then infect Hulk, and he will infect Sentry. The loop is closed, both universes are doomed. You get it. It wouldn't have been a very good idea to adapt such a crazy and gory story into a series. But if you want to know more, I invite you to check out the lore video, which actually has a much more complete and awesome version. And now let's get back to the Blade Knight series and the Young Avengers. To really understand what's next, we need to put the project into context. Last weekend, Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany were at the Los Angeles Comic Con. The actress who plays Wanda answered a few questions, especially about her character's future. She still hopes that Wanda will have a chance to redeem herself, and she half admitted that she would indeed be back for what's next.
I mean, I just think House of M is just the coolest thing. I don't know how to make it make sense, you guys, but maybe there are some fan pitches or theories out there. But I just think it could be so fun to deal with X-Men and Avengers and, mutants or whatever.
But when we talked to her about Marvel Zombies, she simply said she didn't remember the project at all.
I don't even remember what year it was when I did the recording for that. It could have been 4 years ago, it could have been 3 years ago, I couldn't tell you.
As I mentioned, the What If episode was likely made before the pandemic, so the sequel came out quickly. Since then, the project has sat on the shelf for years. And normally, Kevin Feige says he knows the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 5 to 7 years in advance, except that the last 5 years have been complete chaos. Reshoots aren't possible for animated films because the costs would be huge. This episode captures what the Marvel Cinematic Universe was meant to be in the original multiverse saga plans. The series begins with Kamala Khan, Kate Bishop, and Riri Williams. The story is set in New York in 2023, 5 years after Infinity War, during Endgame, but the snap never occurred. By the way, we can wonder if the series doesn't create a big anachronism. Shang-Chi seems to be exactly the same age and have the same job in 2018 as he does in his post-snap movie. Unless all these people were snapped in the 616. But anyway, our three heroines end up together, even though their paths should never have crossed in the first place. Proof that Marvel really planned to make them the first three young Avengers, especially since the post-credit scene of The Marvels where Kamala recruits Kate was supposed to include a third character. Yes, in the movie, Ant-Man's daughter is mentioned, but it was likely intended for Riri before being dropped. Because let's be honest, overall, the audience doesn't really care much about this character. Same thing for Blade. The director of the series admitted to including Blade, played by Marshall Ali, simply because he was announced at Comic-Con 2019. His movie should have released long ago. If you follow the spoiler room, you know we love him. And our Blade rumor, they're making a Blade movie. Wow.
That's a great idea, especially with Marshall Ali involved. But that practically writes itself.
It should be coming out soon. Well, except this time it's really cool because after Stephen Grant switched to the zombie side, Khonshu made Blade his new avatar. A pretty logical choice for a god who protects night travelers to have a new champion who's a vampire and a vampire hunter. Marvel Zombies was meant to spotlight the main multiverse saga characters. And it starts right from episode 1 with the young Avengers, Blade, Moon Knight, but also Icarus and Captain Marvel in the Valley of the Fallen Gods. A sequence where we understand that the depopulation of this world did not lead to the rise of Tiamut. The Eternals have therefore broken their vow of non-interference. This time, Fury called Carol Danvers, not to fight Thanos, but to handle this invasion. A nice little detail, as we see at the end in her room, Kamala is a fan of the Avengers and not of Captain Marvel. Quite simply because normally it's the events of Endgame that made Carol famous, and so here no one knows who she is. Continuing to highlight multiverse characters, Blade and Kamala visit the North Institute and meet Alexei, Yelena, and Melina. A base whose name we've only heard in the Black Widow movie, but which is important. At the time, it was a SHIELD base, already infiltrated by Hydra, developing the Winter Soldier program. That's where Yelena and Natasha's mother worked on the famous mind control project for the Widows and the Winter Soldier. Anyway, Melina and Yelena sacrificed themselves and we find Okoye, who had disappeared and has since been corrupted by Wanda. In the What If episode, she's now being used as a general. Due to her strategy, we finally see a clear difference. Only zombies with red eyes are controlled by chaos magic. Melina created an enzyme to control them, but magic overpowers it. Earlier, Okoye turns Hawkeye into a servant. This shows there's a difference between regular and magical zombies, but Wanda can't control all of them. This is key to what happens next. Another highlight is the confrontation between Alexa and Captain, and especially the very clever use of Ghost. Once again, it's proof that Marvel has known for years that they completely missed her potential in Ant-Man 2. She's fantastic here, and her scene with Blade is my favorite in the series. Let's go. One last note, Ms. Marvel's powers are used differently here than in her series or the Marvels. Here, it's not just shields and projections, the creators were inspired by the comics. Kamala grows her fists to punch like Green Lantern, which is honestly satisfying. I'm not even mentioning the quantum bracelets yet, we'll cover that soon. After the origins, episode 2 starts by explaining the origin of the epidemic. Unlike the comics, What If had already established that the virus came from the quantum world. That's why the first city to fall was San Francisco, with insects or even seagulls and giant inhabitants. After the appearance of the Pym lab, since the Pym particles simply spread everywhere, the events take place a few weeks before Thanos arrives. And this sequence completely follows the codes of a zombie movie. In fact, overall, the whole series, like the What If episode, follows the structure of a classic zombie movie. Day 0, outbreak, survival, new hope sparks a road trip, then worsening events, ending with a rarely happy conclusion. Shang-Chi is bitten in this moment, right before transforming. His father passes on the 10 rings to him, and one of them manages to stop the spread of the virus, a sequence that once again reminds us of the healing effects of these rings. We know Wenwu and his group are millennia old because of them. We still don't know if their origin is magical, extraterrestrial, or futuristic, but their effect is immediate. The rings are then shared with Katie, which could be crucial for what's coming, possibly even by Doomsday. Later, our small team crosses the wasteland toward New Orleans. Each episode increases the cinematic references. Here, we actually have a Mad Max-style sequence, where Shang-Chi's crew faces off against Skrulls, and the next episode gives obvious nods to the Lord of the Rings. The Skrulls likely should have played a bigger part in the original Marvel Cinematic Universe plans, if you follow the logic. The planet is under a Xandarian blockade, so these Skrulls are probably the ones from Secret Invasion. We realize the series still relies on some shaky projects it wanted to showcase. Still, we were lucky to avoid a zombie Chulki from Eatwork. And speaking of that, our heroes run into Zemo, Baron of the Raft, accompanied by his first lieutenant, United States agent. Normally, he's locked up here. After Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but those events didn't occur in this universe. It's inconsistent, but it's still great to see these characters. We knew the raft was a prison in the middle of the ocean, but what we didn't know is that it could also sail. Obviously, the writer's goal in heading to New Orleans is to be able to pass over Talocan in the Caribbean, where Nemo's people are, a hungry, amphibious zombie force. Zemo remains true to himself, letting his superhero guests feast only to sacrifice them to underwater zombies while he sneaks away. The Queen of the Dead's army is pursuing them, and Wanda's magic awakens Namor. And personally, I find this sequence fascinating because it shows just how powerful the mutant avatar of the god serpent Kukulkan is. I sincerely hope that Doomsday will be able to make the most of Namor, because I think that up until now, it hasn't been great. And yes, I love this character. Following a massacre, the group escapes, bringing us closer to something that could significantly affect upcoming Avengers movies. But before we continue, I invite you to subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any new videos, and like the video. If you haven't already, as you can see, Marvel has decided to drastically scale things back, and for me. And you have the power to really make a difference for the future of this channel simply by subscribing, so I'm counting on you. Now let's get back to it. The Bracelets of Chaos. The episode starts with the direct continuation of the What If episode, picking up the most iconic sequence from Secret Wars, the fight against Thanos, just like on Titan, but this time in Wakanda. The zombie in training using the gauntlet is cool, but what I like most is the tribute to Black Panther, which surpasses what Black Panther itself offered. You can still sense the emotion. They didn't dare recast the character's voice, even though many others, including Spidey, who narrates this moment, have new actors. We learn that Wakanda has both a massive mine and a vibranium-powered reactor, explaining their advanced technology. Well, here it's mainly used for the narration, but who knows, it could have an impact later on. Obviously, we have the arrival of Thor, Rocket, and Groot, and Stormbreaker still doesn't aim for the head, which leads Thanos to massacre them. An interesting little detail during his disintegration is that Rocket isn't wearing any implants. Proof that all this was imagined long before Guardians of the Galaxy 3, likely as the intended opening of the original film. If you look closely, you can spot the Watcher at the start of this episode, a trademark of Marvel animation. Our group arrives in Asgard, where instead of a fishing village, there's a cave resembling a dwarven city. I never actually knew if all the Asgardians were conscious. The interaction between Valkyrie and Khonshu confirms that the other travelers can't see the Egyptian entity. Another detail also shows Khonshu's impact on Blade, especially on his connection with Wanda's magic. If you notice, he nearly always predicts the witch's moves, whether during the Horde's arrival at Camp North or when he easily defeats Ghost. And here, when he enters New Asgard, he warns his companions not to touch anything, as if he knew the food was trapped. An element that could play a key role in Moon Knight or Blade, giving these characters a major part in the demonic adventures of the upcoming Midnight Suns. Valkyrie then says the food is from the Queen of Sokovia. Zemo quickly notes there's no Sokovia anymore, and there never was a queen anyway. But Wanda, she really is a Sokovian in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that's where it gets interesting. Wanda explains that she has regained control of her reality manipulating powers for herself, and that she could do it for the whole world. If only the power she needed hadn't been stolen from her. We see Wanda shift from an insatiable hunger for flesh in What If to a craving for unlimited power. She needs Kamala, or more specifically her link to the quantum bracelet. In Ms. Marvel, we learn the bracelets let Kamala access her inner abilities. It reveals and amplifies her mutant powers, her connection with the Noor dimension, and even allows her to travel through time. And to understand this principle, there's a phrase that keeps coming back. A saying that the bracelets let the wearer access their true desires. And that's probably why they allowed Darwin in the Marvels to open a portal to another world, the world of the X-Men, so I think that's it. The connection between Wanda and Kamala. Throughout the series, Wanda tries to create a connection through Kamala's dreams, to gradually draw her in until she merges her powers with those of Ms. Marvel and frees her life, an ending that ties everything together. The new Asgard sequence ends with Thor waking to fight Scarlet Witch. But even the strongest of the Avengers can't do anything against her. The Travelers then rush into space to warn the Nova Corps, which, let me remind you, is the space police. And in this case, they did their job by putting Earth under quarantine. But on the other hand, no one explains how they survived Thanos' attack, who had the worst kind of power on his gauntlet. Well, after all, it was 5 years ago, they could very well have rebuilt themselves. Anyway, we're entering the final act. I'm not going to give you a shot-by-shot description. It's pure what if, over the top, more and more. But there's an important detail. No Strange or Wong. Rintra, the Open Thor, the London Sanctum's Guardian, and Sarah Wolf now guard Kamartaj and have all been seen. In Multiverse of Madness, we learn that the Wakanda incident almost destroyed everything, but Hulk managed to absorb all the energy thanks to the Sorcerer's magic. In short, it's a big fight. Hordes of zombies are sent, Thor is boosted by chaos magic, and everyone gets taken down until Wanda reaches Kamala and convinces her to cooperate. Together, they use their powers to absorb the Infinity Stones. Wanda then casts a House of M-style spell to transform the planet using a clear phrase. A shockwave resounds, and it's clear that Kamala's powers are crucial to create a hex around the planet, exactly like the one she created in WandaVision. The bracelets help her find what she wants, making things interesting. Kamala wakes up in her room to see Kate and Riri as if nothing happened. We revisit the Q Circle, her best friend's workplace, and Kamran, her crush. It's basically a world where she's living her dream. Except none of this makes sense without the zombie invasion. These three characters had no chance of meeting. Kamala lives in New Jersey, Kate in the fancy neighborhoods of New York, and Riri in Chicago. Kamala starts experiencing glitches in the illusion. Meanwhile, Riri, who survived in the Valley of Broken Gods, tries to contact Kamala. I don't think it's all wrong. It's true, it's true. And remember, in WandaVision, Wanda created an alternate reality, the famous Westview Hex, an illusion based on her magic. But SWORD defined it as a signal, the cosmic microwave background radiation, the cosmic microwave background radiation. A signal that made Wanda's illusions picked up by the TVs around the Hex, so I think Riri was able to hack this illusion to get out of it. In short, Wanda didn't hold back. She healed the world, doing for the planet what she did to New Asgard. A simple illusion, a distortion of reality, a House of M. But what if this ending told us much more about Doomsday's plans than we think, as we know? Dr. Doom plans to save the multiverse by creating Battleworld. As I told you in my last video, Wanda should make her return in a world of mutants, a world that currently hosts Binary, Monica Rambeau's mother, who also possesses the quantum bracelets. Marvel Zombies gave us the key to creating this new universe with a power source. Not a pumped up Hulk like here, but a Sentry like in the Marvel Zombies comics. So yes, it's pulling a lot of strings, I agree with you, but why not? Whatever happens, at the time I'm recording this video, the series is a success on Disney Plus beyond the studio's expectations, so there's a good chance a new season will happen. Like in any good zombie movie, dream endings usually turn tragic, but maybe this story isn't over yet. And we'll see each other in a week, same day, same time. In the meantime, don't forget to stay curious. That's the secret to being happy. Ciao.